Namaskar. Where do things stand between United States and China as far as a trade deal is concerned? Well, just a few moments ago, I read a news wire that China has also offered to invest in billions in the United States, just like Apple as a company is going to be investing 500 billion. We talked about TSMC, which was planning on investing 165 billion, and so on and so forth. So looks like China is trying the same play. However, who is in charge in China is a question that probably is being asked by everyone, because it is believed the next communist party event is on the 24th of October, and that Xi Jinping would not be heading it. And then if he is not the one, who is, and what does it mean for the overall power structure in the Chinese Communist Party? We will know all that in a few days. Stay tuned. But clearly, China is also playing some games here. But why did things come to this? What was the strategy before Trump 2.0 came along? What went wrong, or what is being studied? All this and more. I have a small infographic to share with you with all the data. Request to all of you to please like this video. And if you have not already subscribed to our channel, do subscribe to our channel. Here we go. Chaos, confusion, and collapse. Is this what happened? Because if you remember, Trump said that a minimum of 38% and then 140%, even some for a day it was even 200+% tariffs were being levied on China because it wasn't playing ball. The whole tariff game, I thought, started because China refused to accept that it was the source of fentanyl, whether it was the precursors or the finished product, which the Americans had figured out that all the chemical drugs around fentanyl, like meth and so on and so forth, everything appeared to be originating from China. This was something that people have laid that allegations at the door of Chinese, and Chinese resolutely refused to accept that they are the reason for that. So that one has going on. At the same time, what exactly happened? If you take a step back, right, before Trump came along for the second time, Biden administration ignored completely the fact that China was a main adversary and instead trained their guns at Russia. And then you have the Ukraine war and so on and so forth. So that the Democrats had a different approach. And it's amazing, isn't it? Depending on which political party is in power in the United States, its adversary himself changes. So it is one of those things that's hard to explain, but that's exactly what happened. Now, what is happening is, in the US-China trade relations, there appears to be a fundamental paradigm shift. What is it? Well, in the past, the engagement was of, I will cooperate with you and you help you integrate and so on and so forth. Now, it was believed that China would go to democracy, and somehow the United States believed that once China becomes democratic, everything is going to be hunky-dory. Well, it didn't quite happen that way. A lot of other things happened. So today we are where we are because of the internal politics of China also. China will allow a few things, not allow a few things. But right now, having been in power for 7-8 months, Trump has tried to use more a strategic competition strategy, and it's also based on confrontation and rivalry. For example, even this started happening even under Biden administration, when they realized that China had really started sucking dry many companies whose IP was being stolen. I've told you about the stories about how there are chips that are embedded in many server boards which will be transmitting data back, and this is an ongoing thing. Remember TikTok now. TikTok is changing hands because the Federal Communications Commission has written to both Android as well as to iPhone team that you should stop allowing people to download TikTok. This happened about a year and a half ago. Then the Biden administration did not want to take the final step of banning TikTok. They kicked the can down the road, and then it came to be Trump's problem. And now we are hearing that Oracle-based or Oracle-led investing group is going to be finally owning this. About 80% ownership by American entities and 20% by ByteDance, whichever shadow entity is behind that. Be that as it may, I've been using TikTok. It's a very compelling product. I have no qualms in saying this, and I think YouTube could learn a thing or two from them and become an even better product. Let's get back to the method, which is chaos and confusion. The goal was clear. The execution was defined by an unpredictable unilateral approach that prioritized short-term leverage over coherent long-term strategy. You saw that thing, right? Oh, you want to do this thing? 10% more, 20% more, 40% more, that sort of stuff. But China didn't respond back. All they did was they suspended rare earth materials from coming to the shores of United States. By that, they also proved that if they put their heart to it, they can completely stop fentanyl or any of its precursors from setting stage on United States. I don't know where that discussion went. Nobody's talking about it anymore. But that was the reason why tariffs were levied, because one country was refusing to accept that it was the source of all this trouble. Anyway, so first thing that one noticed was there was transactional inconsistency, sometimes going from harsh tariffs, sometimes sudden concessions, and like, for example, one day Trump said 300,000 students are going to be sent back to China. Only a few weeks later, he said, no, we are going to allow 600,000 students to come and study in the United States. Viewers, of that, my guess is in California alone, you're going to see about 30%. And if you throw in Massachusetts, you're probably going to get 50%. And these are the places where many of the Ivy League universities and the marquee institutions are there. And we don't know what's going to happen. If 300,000 Chinese students were going to be future spies for China, what about 600,000 students? This is what is the transactional inconsistency. And the Trump administration has made no effort to explain why, from deporting 300,000 students, now the Trump administration will accept 600,000 students. That's number one. Then the administration used tariffs of the main weapon. And these numbers again went up and down, and thus earning the moniker for Trump, Taco. Trump always chickens out by who, and John Bolton, and he suffered for that too. But in doing all these things, it was identified that China was the main enemy, right? Then why did America alienate its own allies? Europe, India, and United Kingdom, South Korea, Japan. Why? This is a problem that everybody is trying to grapple with. Is the reason why Trump is levying tariffs across the board because he wants to make sure that Chinese cannot sneak in their products through a Vietnam or Cambodia or a Mexico, and therefore he's levying tariffs? Or is there a more nuanced, more deeper version for this? I mean, even now, even if you do all these things, what's to stop China from using some other country as an inlet and then use that country's lower tariff rates with US to flood US? See, this is an ongoing debate. Now, whatever it is, the chance for all countries to present a united front against China, that has been unfortunately broken, and it's in fact gone forever. I don't know when, if anything, the US will be able to persuade all its partners to see things the same way it does. Then, now what is happening? There were 4 goals, and we'll look at each goal of the Trump administration and how it turned out. For example, these are the stated goals, and the first one was to reduce the trade deficit. The core economic promise was to reduce the core deficit between China and the United States. And if you look at the chart here, in 2016, the deficit was close to $345 billion. It peaked in 2018 to $420 billion. Then in 2020, because of COVID, it crashed back to about $310 billion. Still, it didn't go down to nothing. So you have a huge deficit to deal with China. And how does one reduce this thing? Of course, tariffs are one way. but then you should be tariffing only China, and in a way that if China tries to sneak it through any other country, that country also will be caught. So sorry about that. The first determination was that it would be Vietnam and Cambodia and Kampuchea and 𝗥𝗘𝗙𝗘𝗥𝗘𝗏, Kampuchea and Mexico, and then after that things have kind of gone quiet. What's going on? Just yesterday or day before yesterday, Trump again raised 25% tariffs on any trucks crossing into United States border, whether it's from Mexico or from Canada. What's that all about? Somewhere something is gone miss. So the first one was the reduction of trade deficit. It is possible to reduce trade deficit if 2 or 3 things happen. That US can control the borders. Second thing is that it can make sure that the source of the product is clearly determined. I would say eyes closed, 99% of manufactured products now, the price looks very compelling. It's probably coming from China. China has overproduced just about anything and everything you can think of, viewers, and you see these things coming out of the woodworks when you have like a prime deal like this week. Amazon is running one. You see how many new products are coming out. The second goal was to force structural reform in China, meaning make China more democratic. But did that happen? If anything, it has gone the other way. After COVID, China has marched into Hong Kong, and they were supposed to have allowed Hong Kong to stay on as a democracy with all the values that made Hong Kong so prosperous. The whole thing has been collapsed now. What is happening inside is huge repressions, not just in Hong Kong, but also in Xinjiang portion. So the first 2 goals, the outcome has been failure for the United States. Let's take a third one. Maintain US geopolitical leadership. That means whatever US says across the world, that's the one that is going to stay. How well was that done? Well, the answer is it's a mixed outcome. For example, if you look at as a percentage, rivalry solidified in 40% of the time, and alliances have been strained 35% of the time, and cooperation collapsed about 25% of the time. Take example of Ukraine, NATO, but there are some places where things have stood the test of time, like for example Israel and United States. So some things have done okay, some things have not gone okay. Now the fourth goal of United States was to slow down China's progress. This policy intended to hinder China's technological and economic rise. While all this is happening about how tariffs are going to change the destiny and all that, China, it is believed, is robotizing so fast that it can start making the same things for a fraction of a cost and with a very, very slim workforce. It's a different matter that their own people are going to be unemployed, but it is believed that China has really, really robotized its manufacturing line processes. Again, remember one thing, it's to err is human, but to really screw up things takes a computer. If the robots manufacture something wrongly, thousands of devices will go waste. I mean, I've seen many of these Bluetooth like things that come up where it seems to work fine, but it's a throwaway price, and the problem comes out that they have faulty charging technology. For example, it will work for 15 minutes and then it will require a recharge. I mean, it is supposed to run for hours on end, but doesn't happen. So you see some of these problems also happening. At the same time, China not only is improving its processes, but it's also trying to use a dual policy of being not only an exporter, but also a consumer. It's a different matter that China has not had much success because it has been starving its own population while underwriting the cost of manufacturing just about everything. So today, where we are standing, it's a paradoxical legacy. Trump's policy successfully initiated a necessary strategic shift towards rivalry, but it is doing so now in a self-defeating manner. Like, for example, like I told you, if they say that, okay, we are going to invest in United States, and then we'll all be forgiven, will Trump say, okay, fine, let's go back to being what we are, that you can continue to smuggle in chemical drugs? Is that what's going to happen next? So many questions of that nature are being asked, and I'm still waiting to see what coherent policy is going to come out. One thing that I have not found an answer to is why United States allows the renminbi to stay at 7%. It's been like $7 or so per 7 yuan per dollar, and this is just not sustainable, because there's no basis for that. I've shown you so many examples of how multiple copies of the same currency note exist, and these are all blessed by the Bank of China. Nobody seems to really care, and this to me is a huge problem. And unless United States fixes that problem, these things will continue going on. China is able to get away with, well, just about anything it has, and US just wakes up once in a while, rattles the saber, and then puts it back in the sheath and moves on. So that's all I have for now. Let's take a quick look and see if there are any questions. Yes, there are questions. 1, 2 questions here, and that's all I'm going to take. Pavan wants to know, I don't see my like being recorded even as I clicked on like button. Should I do any update on my end? Yes, if there's a new version of the software app, please do consider doing that. And next one is Mitra, you are assuming Taco is a rational actor. He's not. He's a megalomaniacal egotist who came to power on the anti-woke, a serial womanizer. The US deserves all it gets for electing him. We can say all these things after the fact, but the fact remains that he is the president and the country has to get behind him. I like some of his policies still. There is a lot of flab in the whole governance. He's trying to fix many of those things. So you have to give him some time, and let's wait and see. Vinay wants to know, I'm a mechanical engineering student here. I've lined up an internship next year and equipped myself with skills. Do you think staying here long term is beneficial despite the complexity? It depends. I mean, if you can, you will learn more by interning here and going to a company to understand how professionally things are run, because that will come in handy should you decide to go back to India afterwards and start your own enterprise. I want every one of us to be entrepreneurs, because there's a certain joy that comes out of seeing something from nothing, making into a product, and then selling it successfully, and people buying it and saying, wow, this is really good. Even if it is something as simple as, for example, here, this is the marigold. Even as something as simple as this, because somebody conceived it, somebody picked the colors, somebody did exactly how it needs to be looking at, then you pin it and then you market it. There's so many things that go into running a successful product. So I would like each one of us to become entrepreneurs. I love being one, and I've been one all my life. And yeah, there will be ups, there will be downs, but the ride itself is fantastic. That's all I have. Thank you so much, and we will see you again very soon. Namaskar.